So patch 12.19 has been out for about a week now, and it's been one of the biggest mixes up in the meta that I've seen in quite a while. We got Rengar back in the meta. We've got Xayah actually not as much, but Xiaoyu and Siphon are pretty dominant right now, as well as a lot of comps got really destroyed, such as Seraphine. We don't really see her anymore either, and we're not really seeing that AD at Zyra comp either, which I'm totally okay with. I don't know if you guys are. And because of such a big mix-up, I know a lot of people are pretty lost right now, and I wanted to go over some of these comps that are pretty good right now and pretty good in the meta, and then also talk about some tips on how you should be playing in general that are going to help you out a lot this patch. First, I want to give a special shout out to Milk TFT. He does like tier lists as well. I really like the style of how he explains how to play the comps. This was very helpful to me specifically. Understanding this kind of like stage basis of, you know, really your level 7 board's kind of on 4-1, and you're really not worrying about whether you go level 8 until 4-5 or 5-1. And this helped me kind of understand how to play a lot of these boards in my head, especially if you wanted to know how to do like an Astral start into like an AD Twitch build. So huge shout out to this website. I definitely think it's worth checking out, though it still doesn't seem to be up to date for this tier list. So, but it's really good for augment and leveling purposes. But the first board I really want to go over is this Olaf board. You really don't see a lot of people playing this. A lot of people are focusing on the Jade, Xiaoyu, and Siphon board. Sorry that these ads, man. Which admittedly this is quite strong. That's why it's also on the list. But so is Olaf. Olaf is quite consistent, especially if you get him early and you're able to sack with like an Astro board in order to help econ, or maybe even like Lagoons to help econ, and you just play him frontline with Malphite. He really needs RFC. That's like the most important item for him. And then you want to do damage and healing. You either really want IE plus Hodge, or if you don't do that, then it's Giant Slayer plus Bloodthirster. And this is kind of your ideal setup. Pantheon's going to be your main tank, and you really want him next to the Olaf. This is also super broken if you're able to do it with base camp, and you never need to move your Olaf ever. Maybe you'll move like your Wukong or something to help avoid like Zephyr cheeses if they're not directly on the hex, or maybe like a blitz grab or anything like that. Maybe even like Assassin Nyla jumping back so it doesn't immediately hit your Olaf. But it's basically just going to be a 4 Scalescorn, 4 Warrior board, and then you're going to get Whisper in. A lot of people like to roll on 7 to try and hit Olaf 3, especially if you're contested. I'd rather push 8. You really do want to just get all of these units in. Having Whisper actually does insane amount, especially when paired with the extra damage from Scalescorn, and then you really do want the extra 150 damage from your Warrior procs. So I really do like having all this in. So if you're able to 2-star an Olaf, 2-star Deanna, it really is worth going level 8, especially if you already have Pantheon and Silas. Yone is fine to be frontline. He's not even going to do a lot of damage. Locket of the Solari does a whole lot for your frontline, and it's also a really great early slam item. And the main reason I really like this Locket item is because I really like starting first carousel with a Chain Vest, and clearly there's only really one Chain Vest in this comp, so I really like Locket of the Solari. It gives a lot of value and will either help you save HP in the early game, or will help you just like win games later on, because no one will be able to get through your Pantheon, especially other people's Xiaoyus. So if you're playing this early game, especially if you're playing it early, ideally you would get some kind of Astrals thing going on. This gives you Bruiser, and you also have this little Astrals pair is pretty great because Nidalee holds items for a lot of champions really well. You're really just going to put your AD items on your Nidalee. She's going to be your item holder for the at least early game and help you kill a couple of units. You are mostly going to be losing and getting your extra AD on your Olaf. Vladimir and Skarner are also pretty good, but you do really just want your Olaf to die as much as possible and probably lose streak through stage 2 and get yourself a lot of HP. And get yourself a lot of gold. Probably at level 5, you'll find yourself like a Lilia or some other Scalescorn unit. Or if you're able to 2-star like a Warrior like Wukong or Yone, any of these can be your level 5 and level 6 champions. And around level 6 is where you're going to pivot out of Astrals, especially if you have yourself a decent gold. Using these stages kind of as your premise, stage 2, 3. All of stage 2, especially at 2, 3, you're going to be level 4 going with like this Astrals comp. Around 3, 2 is worth going level 6 and kind of having in some kind of board like this. 2 Warrior, 2 Scalescorn. And then just whenever you have an Olaf 2, or you're kind of close to getting yourself like the full board, you can go level 7 and kind of just like swap out all your Astral units and get your main comp going, especially if you have Pantheon plus Whisper plus your 4 Scalescorn. If you don't have 4 Warrior, this is fine. But if you're able to fit in your Whisper plus your 4 Scalescorn, this is kind of broken, especially if you have like your RFC. This is a great start, and you should be able to like win streak or have heavy pressure on a lot of your lobby, and this will allow you to go level 8 and be able to fit in that 4th Warrior. It can be Wukong or Yasuo. Something that's also important to note is if you get like +1 Warrior, then you just don't use Wukong, and if you do get like +1 Scalescorn, you can take out Lilia or Braum. I like taking out Lilia. I don't like her that much, but Then you can roll at 7 and you don't have to go level 8. I really just like getting Whisper in. It adds a lot of pressure onto your lobby. Also, an Olaf 2 can win lobbies with good items, plus good stacks. So going level 8 is not too dangerous, but if you're level 7, say you got like 6 Olafs on your bench, maybe reroll at 7 and get your Olaf 3. But that's the Olaf board. But now I want to talk about this mess because this is insane and it's in almost every lobby. So this is based off of now that Jade is pretty good. Shio got a decent buff. Gnar got a buff. Siphon got a buff. As well as this comp just is very, very good. You have 3 carries in Jace, Siphon, and Shio, and even Pantheon does a decent amount of damage. So this comp, it's annoying. But it's a lot of fun to play, in my opinion. So your main idea is that you want Siphon and Shio, and they share very similar items. Siphon's got Bloodthirster, Titans plus IE, and Shio's got Titans, Bloodthirster, and Edge of Night. This is because Shio, if it becomes targeted and soloed, will just die, and it's fucking gross. Whereas Siphon gets a lot of healing because it hits almost the entire enemy team with its ult, and it can pretty much one-shot with this IE any unit that it chooses to bite. So you really like Siphon kind of being in the front because then Siphon will just cast a whole lot more because it gets extra mana from being targeted. Jace can hold your tank and AP items. I wouldn't really itemize Jax or Gnar. They're not very valuable. There is a Gnar reroll, but it's not super consistent or super good, so we're not really going to talk about it. But he really likes Archangels because with the bonus HP he gets from Shapeshifter, he's going to last pretty late into the fight, and he's going to heal himself a ton. So he's constantly healing himself every time he casts, and later into the fight he'll heal himself more and more. Also like giving him Ionic so he can actually kill things. He's a pretty good tank, and people will get stuck on him for quite a while, but if you give him Ionics, then they'll also die pretty quickly. And this will help shred frontline as well every time they cast their ability. And then Pantheon here is just for armor shred for our Shio. It's the last person I like to itemize, but if you are going to itemize him, then I give him healing first and then some kind of like tank stats. But yeah, Pantheon's the last person I itemize. It's mostly Shio, then Siphon, and then Jace gets any AP leftovers plus like HP. Now, how do you play this early game is actually completely different. Almost completely flex this entire comp. We're going to see that Astral board again early, but this one actually you can win streak with it and do pretty good. That's because it plays really well when you get like an extra bruiser in. A lot of people play Malphite. Malphite's a really good holder for it. Nidalee does really well with these kind of 80 items, especially if you give her like IE, Titans plus Bloodthirster. She's going to like kill a lot of units. Plus you have a lot of health because of Bruiser, as well as at level 5, you can kind of tech in either another Bruiser or a Shapeshifter, which is going to give her more HP. And honestly, if you have a Jax, you can honestly replace this Malphite with Jax. And here you suddenly have Gnar. And at level 6, you can throw in like a Wukong. And this is going to give you 3 Jade as well as a second item holder. And this can also just start taking Titans and Bloodthirster, Edge of Night. And it really doesn't matter who's holding whose items, but this is going to, one of them is going to be your Siphon and one of them is going to be your Shio. And this can take you to level 7 or level 8, depending on how strong you are. If you have a ton of HP and you are not losing, this actually can take you to level 8, and then you can roll down and try and find your like COU and your Siphons without losing too much HP. And most of your other units, you can honestly just throw in whenever you find them. So level 7, say if you find a Jace, you can just grab Jace and throw him in. Or if you found like a Pantheon can go in as well, and it's not too bad. Past stage 2, you don't really need the Astrals anymore, so you can always take Vladimir out at any time and run this kind of board. If you find a Silas, you can take out the Skarner, throw in Silas. And this is actually a really good board. Silas doesn't even need items either. It's literally just there for a trait bot. And then you start getting kind of like the formation of what your board is going to look like late game. Honestly, Shio 1 is better than Nidalee later than like stage 3. So I would just throw Shio in, mostly because it's the Jade statue giving all those stats to Siphon. And you just take Siphon and Wukong out in order to fit in your Siphon. Siphon is like the main carry of this comp. Without Siphon, it doesn't work at all. Getting the extra attack speed from the Jade 5 to your Siphon is kind of nutty. So Shio, I like itemizing Shio first, but I like getting the stats for Siphon as well. And Siphon 2 is more prioritized than Shio 2. So Titans, Bloodthirster, and you can even go double healing if these are the items you find. But there's nothing worse than being about to kill, than biting someone and they still have like 3 HP left, and then they heal themselves to full. Say it's like a Sohm with Gunblade or something like that. So Siphon really does like IE, so you can just kill things. And if you stabilize with this board, even if you have a Shio 1, I would almost consider saving HP and leveling up, and you'll find Shio 2 by yourself pretty most of the time. And I'd much rather level up and throw in this Rakan to get Mystics in. A lot of other endgame comps are very AP heavy, so having in Mystics is really good for your comp. And this will get you a lot of top 3s or top 2s, so I do really like Shio. I'm going to do a full guide on this week, so be sure to look out for that. One I don't see anyone really talking about is a Swiftshot Yone, and it seems odd because it's like a Swiftshot emblem and you don't really get those very often. Now that Swiftshot emblem is craftable, it's just a bow plus a spatula. This is actually pretty consistent. You can get this a lot of the game. I think this comp is even more toxic than Assassin Olaf, but no one's playing it, so it's not really like crept up in the meta, and a lot of people don't think about crafting a Swiftshot emblem. But Yone reroll is insane with this kind of a setup. So normally what you're end up going to do is just rerolling at level 6. With this comp, it doesn't matter how you get here. Leona, you don't need a 3-star, and you're just going to roll for a 3-star Braum, 3-star Yone, 3-star Twitch, and 3-star Jax, though the priority is definitely Yone, Braum, Jax, then Twitch. And as soon as you find Yone 3, it's perfectly fine to level up and start getting your other Swift Shots in. He really likes Rageblade and Giant Slayer. This is the best combination you can get for him. And then you're also going to get the Mirage because of him and Leona. And then for augments, you really just want Thrill of the Hunt or CB or anything that will give you better Swift Shots. He can even do crazy work with Press the Attack if he has the Swift Shot emblem. If you don't find a Swift Shot emblem, you can run it with an RFC, though admittedly this is not super great. And even then, if you don't have Swift Shot emblem or RFC and you find either Scoped Weapons 1 or Scoped Weapons 2, this is the most broken thing on the planet, and then you don't even need RFC and you have a 3rd item slot, so you can make it anything. Any other damage item like maybe a Hodge or maybe like a Last Whisper is fine, or just any other damage amping item, so like maybe a Deathblade. Scoped Weapons is more broken than with the Swift Shot, honestly. So this comp is just kind of great. Level 7, you just throw in Varus. You don't need a 2-star him. You're just going to play him, and you can level 8 and fit in just a Xayah. And then positioning, you just want Yone to be as far away from any assassins as possible. But even then, most of the time, he'll kill like a unit and turn around and kill the assassin in 0.5 seconds. This is broken, and it's not being played enough, and it's super simple. It's just a reroll comp, and it's a really good comp, and maybe you'll get some good plays with it. The 4th comp I really want to talk about is very strong, but it's very inconsistent. You're not going to get it in most games. This is if you get 6 dragon. I know it says 5 dragon over here. There's a dragon soul augment, and this will let you get 6 dragons, and the trait for 6 dragons is they ascend. We don't know the exact stats. I've heard that they get plus 40 everything. I don't know exactly what it is. I did get this one game, and this is kind of the board I ran, and it was a lot of fun. I actually got this against another 6 dragon comp, so still was able to pull it first. It felt very easy, except against the other 6 dragon guy. I actually had to try and beat him because he just hit a better comp than I did. So there's actually some positioning examples I want to talk about in a video soon with this. But honestly, you can play almost any champion. But Aoshin, Shyvana, Terra, Idis, and then Xiaoyu. This is kind of the best thing you can do. Yeah. I don't know how to explain how to get here. It can be anyone's journey, especially since you probably don't want to take this trait unless it's like 2nd or 3rd augment. 1st augment, you're going to be down a Prismatic the entire game. But if you do have it, then it's probably pretty great to just play mages. And they just play Lux with like AP items the entire game, like Shojin, Gunblade, like Rabadons. And you play to win as many fights as you can, as well as econing and getting a lot of gold every turn. And then you'll go 9 as fast as possible and roll down and get any 6 dragons. And you'll just play any 5 dragons and slowly work yourself towards the board I was just showing. And that comp is very consistent, very strong. If you get it, you're probably just gonna win. I think the only comp that like is better than it is 12 Lagoon, and I've never seen that before in my life. And the last comp I want to talk about is actually a lot of different comps. It's just Flex Guild. There's a lot of different guild builds, and they all kind of play the same, and it's honestly with the same like type of opener that I was talking about earlier. But the strongest one I've heard of is Aoshin Guild. So you just play Guild Aoshin. So it's honestly, you just find a guild emblem and you put it on Aoshin. I like Archangels and Shojin, and then it just kills the entire board in one shot. And it goes through the core, this guild core that we've kind of been seeing a lot recently. There's a lot of comps that build around it. You can play Bard, but if you're level 8, most of the time you're playing like Bard until you find like the actual unit for your comp, and then you go level 9 and fit Bard in. But it goes through this core, and until you find Aoshin, you're often just going to play Guild Deja. And depending on what the Mirage is, you can straight up just play Mirage Deja. The best versions are probably Executioners plus attack speed, Duelist Dexterity, as well as, the name is escaping me right now, but the one where you gain like AP every time you auto. These 3 are probably the best that you can play with it. Warlords is not super great because it doesn't give you that much AP, but probably the best like itemization for this. But after that, I've seen people just say like Rageblade plus Giant Slayer, and you'll get a lot of AP from Jace, a lot of like tank stats from Zippy, attack speed from Twitch, and as well as whatever else from like the Mirage trait. But then if you do hit Ao Shen, you can just replace Deja, put Ao Shen in. And Ao Shen can use the Rageblade Giant Slayer. He gets a lot of AP from Jace. I probably would prefer like Shojin over Rageblade, and I probably would prefer any other like, you know, Archangels or Rabadons over Giant Slayer, but you can play it on Ao Shen as well. And then you're also going to replace this Nunu and just put in any Tempest unit. Probably the best is Kiana, just because you get free CC from it. And this is going to give you more damage for your Ao Shen. Then you can go level 9 and put in Bard and try and 2-star your Ao Shen. Now the early game for this board is going to look very similar. And that's why this Astral opening is pretty broken, because Nidalee can be quite strong, but then also gets you free econ. So level 4, you really just want 3 Astral units in, plus Malphite or any other bruiser, and you're going to focus mostly on attack speed actually on Nidalee. You don't necessarily need to go full AD items. Rageblade plus Giant Slayer, and Nidalee is going to do decent damage with this. And you're going to econ through stage 2, stage 3, and you're going to go level 5, probably throw in Sejuani. You're going to go level 6, probably throw in Twitch. Anytime you find a Jace is a decent time to probably pivot out of these Astral units. So, you know, maybe take out the Vlad first and put in Jace. And you're working your way to level 7 around 3-5 or 4-1. And Malphite, Skarn are going to come out. You want your 2-star Zippy to Jace, Sejuani frontline. And then Nidalee can turn into a couple of things. Either a Varus can be an early game, Varus can be an item holder. Honestly, Nidalee can keep it because you have Shapeshifter in, so she's going to have a little bit more survivability. But ideally, you're going to find your Deja and pivot into Deja. Or even the very slight chance that at this stage you do find yourself an Ao Shen. But it is possible. So any of these 3 units you can find, and you can just move the items over. If it's a Varus, I would probably move them over. And maybe if you find like an Ezreal, you can have 3 Swiftshot in. Or you'll run Deja and then slowly work your way to level 8. Put in Nunu to get in 4 Mirage. And decide whether or not you're going to stay in Mirage, Deja, or honestly at this point you can decide to pivot into Xayah as well. Xayah is a great item holder for Rageblade plus Giant Slayer. These are like her best items, and then she'll just take like a 3rd item. And your level 8 board is going to revolve around these, though if you do have Xayah, you definitely want like a Hecarim in for Ragewing, and you're slowly going to work your way to replacing Zippy with Shyvana, and then Rakan in for 6 Ragewing, and this is going to be your final board. And this is what I meant when it's 3 different comps, because this Nidalee is going to hold item that can flex into 3 different champions between Xayah, Deja, and Ao Shen. Right now, I do think that Ao Shen version is the strongest, and if I were to put them in order, I'd say Ao Shen, Deja, Xayah. Xayah, because it's 3 4-cost and an 8-cost unit that you all have to upgrade and find in the first place, as well as Xayah is pretty susceptible to Rengars. Deja faces the same problem, but also with the strong Mirage traits, Deja is quite powerful, whereas Ao Shen is just kind of the best, because once he casts, he kills the entire team. But since I recently had a video kind of pop off talking about Twitch reroll, I really want to talk about Twitch reroll because it is still super possible to do, especially if you are in lower lobbies. So you still can play Twitch reroll. I do think that you really do want to start with this kind of opener. This opener is really valuable to learn. It's in almost every comp that I play right now. It can also still be played with like the Twitch Ezreal Nasus Leona opener if you want as well. These are still very good, though this one does definitely want you to have items faster, because Twitch without items is not going to do much at 1-star. But starting Nidalee with like a Rageblade and econing until stage 3, you can play Runaan's just for tempo, and this will help you win streak a lot of stage 2, even especially if you're able to upgrade units. You hold Sejuani's at level 5, you're going to throw in Sejuani. Level 6, if you already have your Twitch, you can throw out your Twitch, and then whenever you do find yourself a Swiftshot, plus maybe like any other, plus either a Zippy or a Jace, you can go ahead and sell your Nidalee, sell your Vladimir, and consider moving your items over. And you'll keep the bruisers in the case you find yourself a Jace, but if you find yourself a Zippy, you can take out the bruisers and throw yourself a Zippy in, and you'll just reroll this comp until you find yourself a Twitch 3. Then the way in my guide that I talked about where you just go straight into playing Twitch. If you play the Astrals opener, you'll have so much more gold. You're a lot more consistently going to find Twitch 3, and this comp is just going to be so much more powerful because you'll find all your units faster. And Zippy 3 is actually also, he got buffed, so he's going to be really good in this comp as well. I would say this is probably an A tier comp now. If you're against Rengars, Twitch is very vulnerable. But against most other matchups, this plus like a Bloodthirster is quite good, and you will do pretty decent into the late game. It's definitely still viable. Jace is an insane unit right now. He got even tankier than he used to be. And I would say this is a pretty top tier comp. But I think I'm starting to ramble at this point. So if this video was helpful to you at all, please consider liking it and letting me know in the comments down below. Especially if this video left you with any questions, please ask them. I love answering questions in the comments down below, as well as it makes me able to make these videos better, because ultimately I want to be able to help you guys out, and I don't know what helps you best unless you let me know. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys, and thank you guys so much. We're at like 1,300 subscribers. That's fucking insane. So yeah, no, that's like, you guys are amazing, and I really appreciate y'all. I hope you guys have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. But as always, I've been Muffin the Gamer. You guys have been amazing. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.